Welcome, Homer Simpson.
All right! Hey!
The Simpsons has changed over its 30-plus year run. Can you blame them, though? It was a big deal when the show went high definition. That's how old this freaking show is. But some changes are just a lot wilder than others. Seriously, look at Moe. The Binger is more than happy to dive into that character's slow developing existentialism. And don't even get us started on Lisa's change of faith. Most of these changes were for the best, but some were out of necessity. But they're all here in the wildest Simpsons video we've ever made.
Hey, everybody! Here comes fun! Ow!
Waylon Smithers is many things. He's a Malibu Stacy collector, a deeply loyal henchman to Mr. Burns, and a devoted lover when he has a crush. What he was in his first ever appearance was something entirely different. The whole situation has complicated the character's history, so allow us to explain.
Perfect.
Smithers was always intended to have yellow skin and be a Mr. Burns loyalist. The animation team misdesigned the character in his debut. He was shown with brown skin and blue hair. According to Matt Groening, the group saw the mistake, but there was no budget left to reanimate the scenes. Smithers debuted as a completely different race than the show intended. Why didn't they run with the concept? That's a good question, imaginary viewer. It also has a great answer. The showrunners didn't want a black character so subservient to Mr. Burns. The pairing would be problematic, so they insisted on correcting the mistake in the next episode. Mr. Burns explained away the error, claiming Smithers was very tan from a recent vacation. We doubt he's gotten any off time since.
You really blew it this time, Smithers.
Maude Flanders was never the most liked character. Nobody grew up watching The Simpsons and rooting for her moral Christian crusade. We don't mean to say she was wrong, just too judgmental to be really liked. Still, her character could always be counted on to support a story with our favorite family in Springfield. There were even times that Maude outdid Ned in preaching the good word. Her run came to an end in one of the boldest write-offs ever done on the show. The setup was simple. Homer's at a Springfield Speedway trying to get a t-shirt from the t-shirt cannon. As soon as the cannon fires, he ducks down, though, to pick up a bobby pin. The end result is Maude getting struck down by a barrage of t-shirts. The paramedics would have been there to help quickly if Homer hadn't parked in the ambulance spot. The whole scenario was like something out of Final Destination. Maude does come back in dream sequences and as a ghost, but the appearances are sporadic. Her send-off will always be iconic, though.
Next, they're gonna show my movie.
You made a movie?
Barney has single-handedly helped Duff beer stocks keep from tanking. Wait, that's not true. Correction, Barney and Homer have single-handedly kept Duff beer stocks from tanking. Give credit where credit's due. Barney still contributes the lion's share of that Herculean task. Have you seen him in the early episodes? The man's a bottomless pit for drinks. The writer's room decided to change things up, though, to start the new millennium. Barney discovers that none of his friends take him seriously. His constant intoxication left him with no prospects, and people perceived him as unreliable. The character remedies the situation by becoming sober for the first time ever in the show's history. He even takes helicopter lessons. Talk about a smooth turnaround. There was one issue. Barney's drunken stupors made for well-timed jokes and endeared him to the audience, oddly enough. To fix this, the character turned into a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde-like trope. When he needed to be wasted, he was wasted. When he needed to be sober, he was sober. Thus, a new age of Barney had begun. Lisa Simpson was always the character going against the grain. Her role in the family was set from day one. She's smart, expressive, and thoughtful.
Dad, we've been trapped in the house for days. Can't we play outside?
None of that describes Homer Simpson, or even Bart for that matter. Sure, everyone's favorite dumb dad will occasionally show Lisa the importance of street smarts. She always stands by logic. The show took her character further down the path towards family black sheep in an episode about megachurches. Bart and Homer managed to accidentally destroy the town church. In its place comes a huge, glitzy megachurch. The entire ordeal throws Lisa's faith for a loop. She begins to search for a new belief system and finds solace in Buddhism. She soon becomes a vegetarian as well. Lisa and the rest of the family learn to reconcile the difference of faith in this episode. Some assumed the change wouldn't stick permanently, but the exact opposite has happened. Even now, characters will still allude to Lisa's Buddhist beliefs and their effect on her role. It goes to show that no matter how different she is, they will always love her. If you were 10 when you first started watching The Simpsons, you'd be in your 40s now. Think about how much time that is. So much growth and change have happened. Given that, we're gonna guess most of our audience doesn't remember Moe the bartender from the early days. Over the last 3 decades, what he's experienced isn't what we'd call growth. In fact, it's the exact opposite. Moe was a brash and brutish bartender with a seedy style. He always seemed to connect Homer with dubious characters and unethical hobbies. Let's be real, he was capable of scoring a tiger from Joe Exotic if the situation called for it. Things changed over time and the character got darker. Moe went into this state of self-loathing. The whole thing started as a one-time joke and turned into an avalanche of depressing moments for him. Moe never seems happy for longer than a moment. He acts like Sarah McLachlan's songs are playing on repeat in his soul. Here's hoping that the next 3 decades turn out better for old Moe.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
There have been many TV principals throughout cable's existence. Usually, they aren't the kind of character audiences enjoy or even claim to favor. Principals are always the bad guy, and they're rarely funny. This whole idea is thrown on its head by Principal Skinner. He's Bart's greatest enemy, but never such a one-dimensional villain that viewers would hate. Over the first 8 seasons, many people began to see him as their favorite. Then, the Principal and the Pauper happened. For those unfamiliar, some critics claim this is the episode that broke The Simpsons. We don't know how valid that claim is, but the decision in that episode was insane. For years, Seymour Skinner grew on us and worked his way into our hearts. The writers threw all of that out the window for one big dramatic episode. In this now infamous episode, Skinner reveals that his name is actually Armin TAMZARIAN.
Armin TAMZARIAN is an unsavory character who played us all for chumps.
The real Skinner served with Armin. The two were buddies, and Armin believed that Skinner was lost during a combat mission.
I've been making sneakers at gunpoint in a sweatshop in Wuhan.
He then stole Skinner's identity. Talk about a decision that turned into a huge mistake. Flanderization. If you've heard the term before, then you must watch a lot of television shows. It's a real term critics began using to describe an effect that happens to characters in sitcom-like television shows. The Flanderization trope was first coined to describe the noticeable change in Ned Flanders' personality over many seasons. Okay, yeah, that was a little obvious and a bit too scholarly. Let's just talk through it. Ned Flanders has always been a dedicated worshiper of Christianity. The man lives and breathes prayer and Bible study. As a minor character in the show, this trait was used for humor. However, Flanders wasn't always so obnoxiously moral and judgmental. Hence the term Flanderization. It describes the precise change we've seen. Flanders incrementally became more zealous with time. It made his character stand out, so the writers were continually upping the trait to get more out of the running joke. Pretty quickly, it became all Flanders was known for. All the other parts of Ned Flanders were lost. And he's basically nothing more than this now. That right there is Flanderization. Shows talk about a lot of issues throughout the entire series. The Simpsons are no exception to this and came out with a bold change to discuss divorce. Actually, it was more than a simple discussion. The writers used their platform to show the effects on both the parents and the children. By now, you should know that we're referencing Milhouse. His family was given their chance to shine in the 1996 episode A Milhouse Divided. Up to this point, Milhouse enjoyed his parents' constant attempts to one-up each other when it came to their son's affection. But Kirk and Luann reach an impasse in this episode and split. Watching two characters divorce on screen was not common practice at this time. Here's what's more surprising. The show writers had the couple get back together 9 years later. It seems like this change has stuck for good, but it's wild to think the show would take a risk like that. Going back on that decision could have felt cheap and downplayed the big episode. Lucky for us, that didn't happen. Patty Bouvier and her sister Selma are always up there on favorite lists. Their genuine dislike for Homer and iconic laugh makes them stand out. It was Patty, though, that truly stole the show despite being the middle sister. The change we're referring to seemed inevitable, but the moment it happened still truly mattered to viewers.
Did you really think I was straight? Well, I guess I should have seen the sign.
There were always allusions to Patty's sexuality in the show, but the writers seemed hesitant to just address it. The crew would later use that mistake to turn the moment into a learning experience. Patty's closeted sexual orientation became a way to discuss how hard it is to discuss that with close family. In this case, it was with Marge and the rest of the Simpson family that Patty found the courage to open up to. Acting true to form, Lisa and Bart sprang to Patty's side. Homer isn't fazed, as if he knew the whole time. So it's Marge that actually draws the emotional moment. She discovers a new side of her sister, despite the audience knowing for years. Writing off a fictional character like Maude was one thing. To lose a voice actor as talented as Marsha Wallace was a whole different tragedy. She was the voice of Edna Krabappel on the show, and had voiced the character since 1990. We all thought the significant change for the character happened during the 23rd season when she got married to Ned Flanders. This wasn't the case. 1 year later, Marsha Wallace left us, and the character was retired 2 seasons after she married Flanders. On the chalkboard, Bart wrote, "We will miss you, Miss Kay." The writers expressed their grief through Ned Flanders. Poor Flanders was now awash in sad moments. In Edna's last episode, he recalls a tango session the two did together and pulled out a photo of her and Maude together. Flanders says he'll miss her and laugh.
Sure do miss that laugh.
Oh, we're okay. There's just a lot of dust in here in this recording booth, and it's getting in my eyes. It was the first big change in a while, but man, did it sting. Well, that was an emotional note to end on. Which change did you enjoy seeing the most? Did Skinner's shift ruin the show for you? Tell us in the comments below. Like and subscribe to keep up with our daily content. Trust us, you don't want to miss out on the Binger.